guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today's gonna be me, Frankie. I'm interviewing Jason. This is Jason. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So we're gonna start off with like a little introduction. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, your name, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jason Duarte. I am Frankie's uncle. I am a store manager at a running store at a Snail's Pace in Monrovia. I'm here today to talk about anxiety and performance anxiety. As you guys should know, I am a distance runner, sub-elite. I run for a club called Valor Track Club. So I'm here to talk about anxiety, performance anxiety, and other forms that dealing with an anxiety. So thank you for having me.
Okay, so yeah, like you said, our topic of today is going to be anxiety. We're going to touch on performance anxiety and then differentiating between anxiety and an anxiety where it's like an underlying condition where it's something that you need more help with. Before we go into that, I have a couple questions, like background questions. So, what do you think are your top 3 tips you would say on like not only dealing with anxiety but just mental health care, self-care? What are things for you, like your top 3? If you're ever feeling down or if you're ever feeling like you need to work on yourself, what are your 3 go-tos?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Right off the bat, when you said the top 3 things, for sure, breathing. Breathing is by far your best friend. And I know it's the most simplest thing, but sometimes it is the simple things that get you through those anxiety, those little loopholes that you're going through. Breathing is anxiety's worst nightmare because
I agree.
Because there's like so many things racing in your mind, and the brain is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful muscle, actually.
Yeah, 100%.
And by breathing, and when I talk about breathing, I'm not just saying like you literally want to take 10 seconds per breath. So what I do is I do diaphragmatic breathing exercises.
Okay, yeah.
So you actually want to inflate your stomach, not raise your shoulders, but actually inflate your stomach. I normally inhale for 4 seconds, and I exhale for 6 seconds.
For a total of 10.
For a total of 10.
Okay.
Second thing I do is I actually write things down to calm myself down. Most people would say things to calm themselves down on their head. I actually like writing things down because you actually have a movement, you can see the letters, and you will start off pretty fast. And then as you go through and you're writing down your thoughts, I normally write down pros and cons of my life. Okay. And I will see and read what am I blessed for, mostly my pros and my cons. And you will realize you have more pros than cons. Some people do have more cons than pros, and that's where it can get a little difficult. The last thing I would do is exercise. I'm a distance runner, so I can run anywhere from 3 to 10 miles a day, and just helping my mind calm down. It is a form of meditation.
Right. So yeah, exercise is crazy powerful. All 3 things actually are things that I don't know if I mentioned all 3 in the first episode, but they're definitely things that I feel like work for everybody. Mm-hmm. Breathing, 100%. I know I mentioned that in the first episode. Yeah, like that's good that you have a set routine, that you know what works for you.
Absolutely, and you need to remind yourself of those self-improving exercises, because I mean anxiety is a very powerful, very powerful symptom, and you can easily forget what brings you back to center.
So are these 3 things that you do like amidst an anxiety attack, or are they stuff that you try to practice on a daily or on a weekly basis?
Yeah, it's most so weekly basis.
Okay.
It was daily at one point. I will admit I kind of fallen off my breathing patterns.
Yeah.
But
which is normal.
Is normal. But I definitely use my breathing patterns when I need to start my run, or I'm about to go to sleep. It actually helps me go to sleep. But it is more so weekly. I definitely do write things down like at the end of the month. At the end of the month to
like
see.
Like a reflection, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. You can say it's a form of journaling.
Journaling. I love journaling.
Yeah, it's so underrated. Journal, people. Journal.
Yeah, I think especially actually like for men, I feel like girls kind of embrace journaling.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a very helpful method for everybody.
Yeah, and that's funny because as a male, being in a Hispanic background, Hispanic it's frowned upon, like having emotions.
Definitely. No, yeah, that's something that we talked about, which is actually another question I wanted to bring up because I know our family is very like machismo culture, like toxic masculinity. And I'm happy that you're here. Like, no, I'm gonna talk about it. One of my other uncles is interested in talking too, so I'm like, good. I hope the other men in our family are like, wow, you guys have emotions. You're talking about them. It's normal. You're doing something about it. Like, I feel like with that toxic masculinity, it kind of makes you have like a more difficult situation because you're not embracing your emotions, you're not doing something about it, and it's just gonna like everything's gonna come into one huge thing and then explode. And it's like if you're aware of your emotions and you're practicing things like how you're saying, then you're not gonna get to that point. Like, yeah, it's possible you'll get to that point. That's happens to everybody, but you're aware, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's super important, being aware.
And not only that, like most generations, you know, and it's a father and son dynamic. I mean, I don't mean to be gender specific, but it is. That it's unfortunate that that younger generation doesn't see that sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's a vicious loop. This toxic masculinity that you mentioned, Frankie, that you're wondering why people sometimes resent their parents. Like they try really hard not to become their parents, but eventually become their parents.
I get what you're saying.
So it's really tough that like we live in a world where there's so much information, there's so much self-help. No one takes care of it because of our culture being that it's
definitely.
Like why does he need help? Why is he going to a doctor? He's fine. He's healthy. You guys get along. When some of our aunts and uncles realize like, no, I don't get along with my parents, and that's shocking. Especially the Hispanic culture, that it's a collective culture. You know, it's a very collective,
family oriented.
Yes, and when someone says they can't get along with so and so, that's a culture shock in itself.
Definitely, yeah.
So, but being going into that, you know, it's best to communicate with your parents or your significant other, whoever, your cousins, nephews, nieces.
Yeah, any relationship
you have. Just be like, hey, there's a problem. You know, it can be a very minor problem, but if it's those minor problems become major problems, and if you don't, you know, put a Band-Aid on it, you know, it's gonna get worse.
100%. Yeah, I agree. So let's start going into anxiety.
Yeah.
So also we're gonna also touch on. So we're gonna have two topics really. It's gonna be anxiety, and then we're gonna talk about. I'm glad you mentioned it already. Your relationship with your parents, and then in this specific circumstance, how your parents like divorce impacted you.
Yeah.
And your relationship with your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
So let's go into anxiety first. So you mentioned you have performance anxiety, and one thing I want to kind of just make sure everyone knows is there's a difference between anxiety that I think is, and it's totally valid. Like having performance anxiety is a valid emotion. It's anxiety. But then there's a time where anxiety becomes something that's an underlying issue, and it's something that you need to get additional help with, and that's when it becomes like something that affects your daily activity. Something that's like, okay, it's impacting me on a daily basis or like on a severe level, not only when I'm going to perform or only when I'm going to speak in public, you know, like those are normal feelings, but they're still valid. They're valid emotions. So if you want to touch base on those emotions.
Yes, I actually have, I can talk a lot about my experience with, let's try traditional anxiety first. I didn't realize how powerful anxiety was until I started grad school.
Okay.
Now, I went to grad school at Cal State San Marcos. I was a part of an accelerated program. You get your master's in 15 months.
Oh, wow. It's accelerated.
Yeah, and you start every new set of classes every 5 weeks. So you're constantly on the grind. Maybe that first week is like that nice little like, oh,
syllabus.
The syllabus. That first day is like syllabus, and then the next day is like, okay, now read all these like 3 chapters by the next class.
The next class minute, yeah.
Yeah, uh, and everything was going peachy up to the point where we got to, I would say, more than halfway through. I would say
Like, right
eight,
after
9.
midterms.
Right. So with this 5 weeks, actually, within the third week of your new classes, you're already in midterms.
Oh wow.
So everything was fine up to like within the program. I would say the 7th or 8th month. That's when classes were starting to take their toll on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my master's in business administration, and with an emphasis in business intelligence.
Okay.
For fancy talk, that's big data. A lot of numbers, a lot of statistics. I love that stuff. Now, some of these classes were so difficult in data mining and building a database that that project was on my shoulders, and I got my first attack when I was slowly feeling some sleep. My sleep pattern was off.
Yeah, like sleep deprivation.
Thank you for that. I was getting maybe 3 to 4 hours of sleep because that database project was on my mind.
Yeah.
The whole time, and it was hard for me to calm down. One of the first symptoms I noticed with my sleep, how do you say that again?
Sleep deprivation.
Thank you. I'm dyslexic, by the way, so I probably can't pronounce most big words. But one of my earlier symptoms of anxiety was I would scratch my arm.
Oh, okay.
As I'm doing writing on my laptop or typing on my laptop, I every now and then would go back to scratching my arm, and preferably, maybe because I'm right-handed, I would scratch my left arm with my right hand. After a while, I noticed I had a bunch of scars like on this arm, scratch scars. When you scratch yourself, you leave like dents in your skins, like little molds, not molds, but like
an indentation.
Indentation. So if I wasn't so tan, you would literally see all those indentations in my arm, most so on the left and on the right. And so that was my first part, and then I had a mini attack while sleeping.
Okay.
I had shortness of breath. I was kind of hyperventilating, and I wasn't a great roommate. I had great roommates at the time, and they pretty much helped calm me down a little bit. I was on the side of my bed and just trying to breathe, because I was already doing my breathing exercises for sports anxiety, performance anxiety. That helped, but just knowing I only had like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, that was
taking a toll.
That was taking a toll. So that was my signs. Was my sleep pattern was thrown off. Nervous tendencies. I think that was the biggest light.
That's exactly the word. Nervous tendencies.
Nervous tendencies. I noticed, and to this day, my right eye will flicker from time to time.
Okay.
Yeah, it will flicker if I am a little overwhelmed. But going back to my breathing, writing things down, and my exercise definitely dampens that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, in the traditional sense, performance anxiety, I would normally, this will happen to me while I'm running.
These side effects.
These side effects,
symptoms.
These symptoms, is I'm so tensed during the race, especially towards the end of the race, my hands will go numb.
Oh wow.
Because I've tensed myself. It's the last, in track and field, 1 lap is 400 meters. So with either I'm running the mile or a 5K, the last 400 meters, meaning the last lap, I will notice halfway through, I can't feel my hands anymore.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I've seen the race footage. As you know, I love distance running, and I'm a big track athlete and track fanatic. I always look at the tape. I watch the tape, and it all starts with my shoulders tightening up. They go from relax here to here.
Yeah, you could see it.
I can see it, and then this is so tense that I can't swing my arms anymore. Going from a 90-degree up and down motion to this side to side, or I'm just like I can't lift my arms.
Yeah. And you do think that's something that affects your performance? I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, because I'm trying to run a personal best. I'm not even trying to go for the win. I'm actually running against the clock.
Okay.
And knowing that I'm so close, my body shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
And people might say, like, oh, he hit the wall. No, people who see me run see me hit the wall, and it's different when you lock up.
Hit the wall is like you're just done. Like
you're just hitting the wall in distance running is you went out significantly too fast.
Okay.
And
you burn yourself out.
You burn yourself out, and you normally will see that burnout halfway through.
Okay.
This is happening towards the end of my racing, majority of the time. I am not self-coached. I'm actually coached by Dr. Sandra Martinez, who's actually my best friend, and she and I have this saying that whenever I feel that with the later stages of the race, that my hands are warm, or turnover, meaning turning over my legs, turning over my hands, just to keep your mind occupied. Because once you hit a certain level of threshold, that's when your body shuts down and the anxiety takes over.
Yeah, definitely.
So those are my symptoms. In high school, it was worse. I couldn't sleep, or I was just so happy and nervous.
Leading up to it.
So I ran for Franklin High School. Frankie went to E-Rock, rivals. And we had races on Fridays. Race day was Friday, and I was already ready to race on Wednesday. So I was already having bad sleep Wednesday night, Thursday, going into Friday. I was like, I'm already exhausted, and I have not ran one single step yet.
Yeah.
So with age, you just learn to calm down a little bit. But that was, I think, my earlier symptoms. And there's all types of it that I see now that I've been running now competitively. God, I'm 19 years. And you 19 years. And you can see that the anxiety is real with a lot of people. And you can actually see it at the starting line sometimes.
Yeah, like with other competitors.
And you can feeling people's aura, or energy, positive, negative energy. You can feel that.
Yeah.
You can have the best poker face out there. It's gonna surface.
And do you think people like attack because they see other people nervous?
Yeah, and I hate to admit, I'm one of them. If I notice that you're going into the race thinking, like, oh my God, the weather's too hot to race. Oh my God, it's too cold. Oh my God, it's raining. I'm not feeling good today. Training has sucked. If I can sense that, hear that, feel that, to quote the great Shaquille O'Neal, barbecue chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it works to your advantage.
Yeah.
But it's good that you're on both sides. Like, you know what it feels like, but then you're also...
Yeah, I've had, like, definitely after the race, I've told them to, like, hey, man, it's just one race. Breathe.
Yeah.
Use this for next week.
Yeah.
Use this fire.
Yeah. Build off of it. Okay, so how did you know, like, what was a time where you were like, okay, this is happening? You started to realize those symptoms. Like, I know with your attacks it's kind of more obvious, but let's say while you're running, your hand's going numb. Like, was it multiple races, years into it that you're like, oh, now I'm realizing this was happening? Like, what was your realization point? That's
a great question. It actually started happening more, and this is when the mind is very powerful. That started happening as I got faster.
Oh, wow.
It happened when you think you're your most confident, you think it's going to come easier. It's actually the most difficult.
Yeah, you have expectations.
Yes. So, on a lot of it, and Sandra can vouch for this, Dr. Martinez can vouch for this, there was times where I was running the mile, or the metric mile, which is the 1500, and I was making a name for myself within the in the local ranks. Now I became more the forgotten guy. Like, he's at the bottom of the list. Now he's like climbing the list.
Okay.
Now you're number one in your race. You're seated number one. in your section. Now that was difficult for me because like I used to be the person gunning for the number one spot. Now I am the number one spot. So I noticed the first time it happened, I was just like, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started happening more and more. Frequently. I would say the timeline I want to give you is like, I'm 33. It happened when I was like 23, 24.
Okay.
So around that time, I was hitting my stride. I was clicking in all cylinders. Practices were going well. Mileage was fine. But that's when I realized, like, as I was getting faster and trying to bring down that time, that's when, like,
your anxiety was peaking.
Yeah, it was a different form of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I had now learned to conquer to be ready on race day. Like, I had no more anxiousness leading up to it.
Yeah, like pre-anxiety.
Pre-anxiety. Now it was happening during performance. Yeah,
so, which is totally different. It's like a new way to cope.
Mm-hmm. So I thought I was over this, and I thought it was like a one-time thing, but no, it actually happened again last week when I was running a 1,500-meter time trial. Just seeing where I'm at, testing my fitness, and then with like 200 meters to go, so meaning the last lap of the last 200 meters, half a lap, I felt it a little bit. But now I'm at a point where I can catch it.
You're aware.
I'm aware of it, and I felt it was happening, and I just told myself, turn over. Next thing you know, I have 50 meters left. I was like, oh, we're done here.
Yeah, I got this.
I got this.
And then with anxiety in school, like when do you think, you said when you noticed you were scratching yourself, you think that was like your realization point? Yeah,
I actually had a recent attack, not like about a month ago. I was eating, and this was a new one, and I like to touch bases on. Especially we're in the COVID era.
Yeah.
I lost my appetite for a brief, like, 12 hours. I had just was seeing a friend run a track meet. Great stuff. And next thing you know, I'm eating tacos from Jack in the Box because I was hungry as hell. And I noticed within like my fourth taco, I was like, not only I'm full, now I can't taste the sauce. I can't taste the soy meat. I can't even taste the crunchy hard shell taco shell.
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is not good.
And was that like a new symptom? Like
that was a new symptom for me. I will admit the last time I felt a loss of appetite was when I got rejected. So I had experience of loss of appetite.
Okay. But this was like a new...
This was new. Type, yeah, because I was fine the whole day.
Okay.
I was peachy. I was seeing a good friend run. She dominated as per usual. Next thing you know, I go home and eat. And it's not there. Next thing I know, I'm pacing now.
Oh, okay.
I'm pacing back and forth from my kitchen to my room, figuring this out. Little do I know later, now I start doing this. Now I start scratching my arm. I called Sandra. She picked up. First thing she says is like, it's a little late for you. It's 10:30 p.m. For me, that is kind of late because I do wake up at 5 a.m. to run. She's like, hey, like, first thing she says, are you okay? I was like, I think I'm having a little bit of a panic attack. No shortness of breath, thank God. But I was like, I needed someone to talk to. I was like, can I call you in the morning? She's like, yep. And she left the last words saying, oh, I hope you can sleep tonight. And I did take some sleeping gummies.
Okay.
To help me with that, and it helped. It helped for like 4 hours because I woke up at 1:30 on my own.
Yeah.
And I sat there breathing, just breathing, and I was in and out for quite some time. So
of sleep.
I actually still managed to get up and ran.
Wow.
That day.
Trooper.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's an important story to touch on because I feel like it doesn't an anxiety attack or a panic attack doesn't need to be like, there doesn't need to be a trigger. It could just come from anywhere.
I was just chilling the whole day, watching a good friend of mine run,
Yeah.
and I was in a very positive atmosphere. I bumped into some current coworkers that work at other stores because Snail's Pace has other locations, and I met other staff members there that I know very well. It was a great. Oh, good God! Friday. It was like a nice Friday afternoon, and and it just turned.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like I think like so for me, my anxiety usually happens in social settings.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't believe me. They're like, "You're such a social person. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I can never see you having social anxiety." And I think it usually doesn't happen like in settings with like my family or with people I'm really comfortable with. But there are times where I'm like at a birthday party and I'm just like, no, like I need to go home. Like I don't want to be here anymore. I can't. And I don't want to be rude, but I'm like I don't even want to say bye. Like I need to get out. And I'll be like, no, like let me say bye. But like it's so hard for me to even go say bye, or for me to like come up with a reason of why I'm leaving so early, or like why I don't want to be there anymore. And I'm like, people are gonna think I'm such a party pooper, but I'm like, no. And it'll be like I'll be having like the time of my life. It's a great party, and I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like,
yeah,
I need to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, it comes from nowhere, really.
Yeah, and that was the sad part. Like, I had a good time, talking with some friends, talking to my friend after the race, with the COVID restrictions, obviously. And I think I figured out what it was too. It's just I was in a great setting, but because of this pandemic, it just I'm a very I'm a social person myself, but I was just limited to this little like space.
I got you. Yeah, definitely.
Like I felt like a caged animal.
Yeah.
And
I feel like with COVID, that's really hard on people that aren't social and social, because it's now like if you're not social, it's forcing you to stay that way. And maybe you're finally opening up, or like you're just tired of it being mandated instead of it just being from you wanting to do it.
100% agreed. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like the people that are social wanting to go do things, like it's so different now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Which is like a whole topic in itself. And who knows what it's gonna hold for everyone's future, but it's gonna be crazy.
But I still had a good time. Just for the record, I had a great time reconnecting with people. Good. And I'm glad it happened towards the end, because I would have been like you. I would have like texted my friends. I am out. I'm not really feeling well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I had a good time. I'm glad it happened by myself. Grandpa was in the living room watching TV. I was kind of incognito.
Yeah. Sometimes that's best.
Yeah.
Because explaining yourself could be difficult, especially like we said in our family.
Yeah, and at that time, I can be now reflecting on it, being present at the time. At that time, I had no idea what triggered it until once I worked it out. Yeah.
All right. We're gonna switch the pace and go to our second topic, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course.
So let's just do a little background story. I mentioned earlier your parents, so my grandparents, separated. So how old were you when this happened?
Yeah, I remember clear as day. I was a sophomore in college, so I was 19 at the time, going to be 20. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit younger than I am.
Yeah, I would say it was 2007.
And do you feel like that was something that you kind of saw coming, or it was a shocker?
No, I saw it coming a mile away. It was, I hate to throw my parents under the bus here, but it was something that was prolonged for maybe 3 to 4 years at most.
Yeah. And do you feel like, sorry, I'm interrupting. In those 3 to 4 years, you were kind of like just waiting for it to happen?
Yeah. My mom, your grandmother, never talked about leaving Grandpa. She never talked about it, nor did my dad, nor did Grandpa. They never talked about splitting up until one day. I think Grandma was just fed up. during that time too, I think the last year they were together, they did agree to file for divorce.
Okay.
So that was fine. Like filing for divorce, they did agree on. And I remember my mom talking to me about that.
That's good. That's good to share the conversation.
Yeah. And I
Out
hate,
of the blue.
again, I hate to admit it, but the first words that come out of my mouth was good. It's about time.
Yeah.
Because I felt the stress every day. I'll paint you a small picture. Both these people saw the same novella in different rooms.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was like, I could have been a perfect opportunity to kind of bond over something.
Yeah.
But they just had, being both Hispanic, being in the Hispanic culture, it's a proud culture.
Mm-hmm.
Pride. So they're not gonna, no one's gonna cave. It's like
stubborn.
Stubborn. Yeah. It's like a chess piece, a chess match, and both kings are there. Like it's a stalemate.
Yeah.
You can't win this. So that was that. So I do remember telling Grandma, like, good. Now her moving to Texas, that sucked.
Yeah.
But I got it. Honestly, I talk to her about it quite often. Because I try talking to her once a week, twice a week at most.
Mm-hmm.
And she does talk about you and your siblings,
Mm-hmm.
Natalia, now Leo, that she does feel bad that she's missing out on so much, but she did what she had to do. She felt she had to be happy in Texas.
And that's why she feels happy.
Yeah, and she's taking care of great grandma, and she wants to be with her mom, and I don't blame her. I don't hold any resentment. Are there times where I want her to come for other events? Yeah, absolutely. But you also have to take talking about pros and cons. There's some pros to it. She does come at least once or twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
For the summer, for mostly for my birthday and your mom's birthday,
right?
Because we not share birthdays, but we're a day apart. Same week. And sometimes she'll come every other year on that second trip of Thanksgiving, a Christmas, anything. And now I'm happy to say I am financially, maybe I can fly her out more frequently.
Okay.
Once everything opens up again.
And do you think, with that whole situation, do you think it changed the relationship that you have with Grandpa and the relationship that you have with Grandma?
Yeah. Now Grandpa had 2 businesses when I grew up with him.
Mm-hmm.
The first 12 years with Grandpa, I really knew him. He'd go to work, come home, but he made it up. I remember wrestling with him in the living room, playing soccer at night with him. He made time for me and for Julio. But it was tough because he was gone all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to be on my best behavior with him because he had come home yelling at my mom.
Okay.
But knowing what I know now, he was just venting.
Letting it out.
Not airing it out, and my mom was just there soaking it, like, okay, we'll get through this. So for the first 12 years, I hardly knew my dad.
Yeah. Which is hard too, because being at a young age, like I expect, like with you and Julio, his younger brother, it's probably weird seeing your dad come home and then like letting everything out until now you realize.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He was fine, and he does know this. We've talked about this. He loses the 2 stores, and I thought that was gonna be my lineage and Julio's lineage. Like we were gonna take over those stores and make it even more successful. Easy, the American dream.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we lost both businesses. He got a different job, and he was around more. To me, that was foreign. That was like weird. And that's when I finally got to know Grandpa. He has the biggest heart, probably the biggest supporter in my life, along with Grandma. And just wants nothing but the best. And I'll give him a big shout out. He helped pay for my first semester of tuition when financial aid wasn't kicking in yet.
Oh wow.
And then he actually also paid for my last semester of grad school, which is more expensive than
Definitely.
undergrad. So he helped with that financially. And I have the best cornerman out there. I have the best. We use a lot of boxing analogies, so he's the best cut man. So thanks, Dad. I'm very close with my mom. Out of all, there's 4 of us, and I'm the first boy, but I'm the middle child.
Yeah, and I would feel like you are the closest to
Mhm.
grandma, like even considering she still lives in Texas.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that. My godfather, Mike Reyes, told me there's a reason for that. And I was like, because I'm the first boy, mama's boy, which I am proud of it. And no, it's because when she was pregnant with me, my grandpa passed away, like a few months before she gave birth to me. My mind was blown. So I can see why there's a
special bond.
There is a special bond.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then last question to wrap everything up, because we're running out of time.
Wow, that was
fast. Yeah. Actually, I don't have a last question. Any like final thoughts, final saying, advice, maybe actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely give
for both situations.
For both situations, for sure. Definitely, the first thing I want to say is anxiety is very real.
100%.
Don't be in denial. I think that's probably my best advice I can give you is we're not gods, we're not demigods.
We're human.
We're human, and the mind is so powerful that don't take things for granted. Life is too short. That's number 1, is be honest with yourself, which
goes a long way.
Which is the most difficult thing that a human person can do.
I feel like it takes a lot to get to the point where you realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And second thing is be around people who truly care for you. If you have a strained relationship with your parents, siblings, significant others, whoever, those people will be the most important people in your life. And you need to surround yourself with a support group that truly know you, that truly care for you, and that you can lean on. And I know it's kind of hard too sometimes because
it's definitely hard. It's definitely hard to find that, especially like even now with COVID. Like let's say you kind of didn't have one, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna venture and build my group, and then pandemic.
Yeah. Not only that, sometimes it's hard to get a hold of people. Let's be honest.
People are busy.
People are busy, and they don't get to you to the end of the day. And I hate to bring a sore subject, but there have been suicide cases where someone didn't tell someone hi.
Yeah.
Like just going out and saying hi to someone.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy because we live on a busy street, so there's times where my family will walk out to our car, we park far or whatever, and we'll pass so many people, and we'll just be in shock, like how people will not say hi, and it's like you don't understand where a person's at, how their day is, that your hi could make or break their whole life, really.
Yeah. So that's the difficult part, even within the support group, is their availability.
Yeah.
But that's why it has to be more than one person.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Don't put it all on one person, because that's not okay.
And that's not fair to that one person.
Yeah. It's good to have a strong connection where you feel like one person can do that for you, but it's not healthy for you or the person.
Exactly. So don't be in denial. Having a support group. Number 3 would have to be having some self-disciplines, those blockers. So that's the breathing, that's the note-taking / journaling, the exercising, finding any kind of outlook, hobby, anything that can help you get over something.
Use it as like a tool.
As a tool.
Not a distraction, a tool.
Yeah, as a tool. Some of the best inventions, creativity happens when you're backed into a corner. I hate that's always the case, or 90% of the case, but you never know. If you're dealing with anxiety and you have these tools, you might come up with something great that
Yeah.
can help the greater mankind.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, and we're gonna wrap it up. That was a really great session. Thank you, Jason, for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Anyone else that wants to come on here, it's really simple. You guys just gotta shoot us a DM. We're also gonna come up with an email address that we'll attach on our profile page so that you can just send it through there. And then hopefully this will go up on YouTube and Spotify. And we're working on getting other platforms so you guys could hear everything. And I hope this helped and you guys learned from it. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.